Hi everyone. Thank you for being today with us and thank you for joining us today. Today we have Aditya Singh on our podcast. So guys, Aditya होता है ना ऐसा फ्रेंड आपका जो हर चीज में बेस्ट हो. Like he's good at partying, he's good at studying, he's good at going places, he's good at speaking, he's good at presentation. The list goes on and on. मतलब जो आपका बिल्कुल यारों में यार टाइप का फ्रेंड होता है, that is Aditya, and that's how he's always been, like since childhood से लेकर अभी तक. So, thanks, Adit, for being a part today of this podcast that I started. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Prachi. First of all, thank you for having me. Second of all, guys, she's lying. Except for the padhai part, I will buy everything. Padhai part, I won't buy. And me and Prachi, we go back at least 20-22 years. So it's going to be a great one today. So I have high hopes for this, Prachi. So
Yes, definitely. So, guys, speaking about Adit's career trajectory, so he has done his master's in Canada, and after that, he's moved. He's worked for a bit in Canada, also in the supply chain, and then he's working right now in India in the same avenue in the supply chain management. So, basically, हम दोनों चीजों के बारे में बात करेंगे. We'll talk about how he got into Canada, how he did his studies here, and then he's working in Canada, and then moving back to India and working in India. So, Adi, all spotlight to you now. You can like just
ah,
start give an introduction about like how you went to Canada, how did you do the university search, and what all
mhm.
was your criteria.
Okay, thank you. So I will take the mic from you now.
Mhm.
So I did my bachelor's back in 2019, and I did my bachelor's from Manipal University, and it was nowhere related to supply chain. It was core engineering, civil engineering. And after that, I did work for some time, not for a very long time, very short period of time, right before COVID came in, and then so during COVID, my dad actually asked me that, is that it for you? You want to study some more, and or is that it? You want to pursue a career in civil engineering only? And I was like, no, I'm not very keen of working on the ground. Rather, I want to be a part of something. And this is back when I was not aware of how supply chain works, and it was just a discussion with my dad. And it was just like I told him that I want to be a part of operations rather than be on the front. I want to be on somewhere in the back end and really want to know how things work. And then my dad was from logistics background, so it always kind of like intrigued me to see how things work, and kind of like grew up around it. So this is when I started hunting for my masters, and actually wanted to pursue something in logistics back then, because that was the only discussions that I would have with my dad. And so supply chain consists of logistics and operations, and like day to day, every I'm just giving a crux for the people so that the people from not from
Mhm.
this background can get a hint of what we are talking about. So it was never कि बहुत it's not like confined कि जैसे हम किसी civil engineering, it's very much confined to construction and design. But for supply chain, it's basically a big word, like a small word for a big world, I'd say. So every company you say, any tech company, any no like production based sales, every company has supply chain in the back end. So कहीं पे हम product को operate कर रहे हैं, कहीं पे we are just giving services, but every so this is when I realized after talking to my dad, and I was doing my research, and then there are a lot of institutes they help you with this uh, Jamburi and all, to name a few,
Mhm.
because that's where I took my counseling from. And my original goal was to go to England. That's a
Okay.
yeah. So I filled my forms. So first of all, I gave my IELTS exam
Mhm.
through. Yeah, I gave my IELTS exam. The British Council used to do it back then. Like now, though I
Okay.
think IDP does it, but back then British Council also used to do it. So I did my IELTS exam through British Council and got my numbers secure, whatever I needed to, and then I started applying. And back then, my whole concentration was to go to England, and I was not much aware about North American side of like America or Canada for that matter. I just wanted to go to England, and so a funny story. I actually got accepted in Birmingham University,
Okay.
and I was about to opt for it, and that's when one of my friend who lives in Canada, he actually had a word with me, and he's like, "What are you looking for?" So this is an advice for everybody who's looking and planning to go abroad. You
Mhm.
should be very clear about your goal. And by goal, I mean like where do you want to be in next 5, 10 years? Like, do you want to stay in that country? Do you want to like come back? How I came back initially, I did not plan to come back. So back then, I always wanted to stay back there, get a permanent residency, citizenship, green card, whatsoever. So it's for anybody who decides to go abroad that उनका ultimate goal क्या है? They want to be there या फिर उनको वापस आना है and then be with their family in Canada. A lot of people just go out there to study, किनका
Yeah.
family
Hmm.
business होता है, तो it is very dynamic है ये, मतलब it's not like कि आप बाहर जा रहे हो तो आपको रुकना ही है and vice versa. So then my friend talked some sense into my head कि bro तू जा रहा है, then you have to really figure out कि तू वहाँ पे रहने वाला है, how much work
Mhm.
permit you will get post your graduation, like how much work permit you're gonna get, what's your journey from a student to a citizen
Right,
of
right.
XYZ country wherever you are going. And that's when he started talking to me about the benefits of going to countries which are not saturated. And I'm talking 2020. So nobody,
Yes, yes.
if anybody gets mad at me that Canada is saturated now, so this is the time when Canada was not saturated. Very few people were actually traveling all the way to Canada, US back then.
Correct.
So compared to now, yeah, compared to now,
Yes.
people were still traveling, but the numbers were not as high as what it is today. And so I started looking around for colleges in Canada now.
So, Adi, what's
And
the process of this, like looking around for colleges? Like, suppose, just आपने क्या, you gave your IELTS, and then, like, what is it? और क्या हमें, like, we have to write a GMAT, GRE for, like, if we talk just about finance.
yeah, yeah.
So, are there other exams also that, like, I'm just talking about a layman perspective because मुझे भी frankly speaking कुछ बहुत पता नहीं है about going outside India. So, what exams do you have to write, and then, like, what is the way to approaching universities?
Yeah, that's a good one. So you do have to write IELTS. That's like a language proficiency test. Like
Yeah,
that doesn't test any of your technicalities. It's just like how good are you at English, just like a normal
correct. Huh.
communicative English. But then there are GRE exams when you want to go for, like MTech, you say,
Correct.
like if you want to go for MTech or just after BTech. So there are few exams. I cannot recollect everything right now, but once you start getting into your own like journey, you will figure it out. There are people who help you with this. IDP. IDP is the only one that is conducting these exams in India right now, like for IELTS, I would say. So they have counselors and it's all free of cost. Don't pay money to
Okay.
anybody. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's all
Okay,
free of
nice. I
cost.
always thought that people would take money from you and then counsel you. So
No, no, no,
that
no.
is
I
nice.
would say not all of the companies would do it for free, but IDP does it for free. If anybody is asking you
Okay.
money on the name of IDP, don't pay them. It's a fraud. IDP never charges you money. They have a tie-up with the universities that you're going to. So
Okay.
if you get an admission there, then they get some money from them. So
Got it.
they don't charge you.
Got it.
Yeah. The exam itself is like 12, 13,000. It was 14,000 when I gave. I'm not sure about what's
Mhm.
the prices right now. So they get enough money. तो yeah, so this is when अब मैंने अपने थोड़े attention को shift किया, and this is November. So I originally planned to go in January of 2021,
Mhm.
but then like the fall intake, sorry, the winter intake. So they have like three intakes: winter,
Okay.
summer, and fall. Yeah, so winter intakes are like January, summers are like May, and then the fall's the main one. Not because I went there in fall, because most number of people join their schools. It's called schools, so I'll address it at schools, like the North
Correct. Huh.
American language, they call it schools. So most people enroll in September, so they believe fall's the main ones. But I was planning to go to to England in January, but then something happened in my personal life and I couldn't do it. And then I changed my dimension. I was like, chalo Canada, let's just research about Canada.
Excellent. Huh.
So yeah, so I already had my bachelor's. So Canada में point system होता है basically. So they're like, to get a
Okay.
PR, you have to have certain point cut off basically. जैसे हमारे cut off IIT JEE वगैरह के cut off होते हैं, तो वहाँ पे भी cut off आते हैं. उन्हीं cut off की criteria is very not very difficult, I'd say. So if you have a bachelor, you get some points. if you can speak English or French. If you can speak French also, because French is another language, like one of the two official languages of Canada.
Oh, I didn't
Yeah,
know that either. I always thought that,
yeah. I
no, Canada में तो आप सबको इंग्लिश ही बोलते होंगे. Oh,
No, 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 no,
that's
no.
good.
It, it's French also, because Quebec is a French-speaking colony. Like earlier,
Oh,
just
okay, okay, okay.
yeah, yeah. So Canada used to be a colony of European people majorly and French people. French people, by French people I meant like the real French ones, and they used to live in
Got
Quebec.
it, got it.
So French speaking state hai wo. So because of that, so if you know how to speak French or write it, then extra points for that. And then if you have a work experience, some points for that. So the list goes on. So now I figured out ki yaar, I can actually be a permanent resident of this country
Mhm.
in a few years rather than if I compare it with England.
Yeah.
And this is obviously if I'm putting, and the prices, like the education fees and everything is too high. So I was obviously looking at it in a rational way कि अगर मैं इतने पैसे लगा रहा हूँ and I'm not doing it in India, then I would want to be there, stay there, get my family to move
Mhm.
from
Yeah,
India.
yeah, yeah.
And that's when I started looking for colleges. The counselors were helping me, as I mentioned, IDP. Now I shifted all my attention to IDP from Jamboree, and I shifted to IDP, and then they started helping me, and they started sending me colleges, and then this is when I started filling application forms for the colleges and universities. So I was
So for
doing
every
for both.
college, you'll have to fill their own separate application
Yeah,
form.
yeah,
One
yeah.
college will
And
form it, you
yeah, yeah,
have to
सबका
fill.
अपना होता है, and like about $100 or something. These are all prices in 2020, 21, so
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not sure about that. So about so मेरी एक list होती है, तो basically they give you like 10, 15 colleges. From that you have to like short down to like five, your top two priority, then the third one, then the
Good.
fourth and the fifth. So basically I filled in about six, I believe. Yeah, I remember I filled in six colleges. My top priority was Humber College. So this is college in like Toronto, not like Toronto. It's like how Delhi NCR is, just like
Okay, okay, got it.
yeah, yeah. So Toronto and the suburbs. So I wanted to go to Humber personally. That was my first college. Then second one was obviously where I did go. Actually, end up going to Georgian, and then there were other colleges. So I just fill the application, and then you send all your documents, your bachelor's and your work experiences, your job experience letters and everything. And then if you get shortlisted, then you have to like pay your whatever fees. And so I did get shortlisted in two of the colleges. Humber, I never got shortlisted. That's one of the biggest, I'd say, things that I feel ki wo hota to better hota. But then I got shortlisted in Georgian, so I took up. So my first like funny enough, my first like the course that I did there was not actually supply chain management. It was like project management. It was like a generic
Okay,
course. Yeah, it
okay.
was like a generic course, 1 year full-time course. So it was like a generic course, and then I went there, and then the Canada. I have learned so much from Canada in every dimension. I say I got to learn how to respect money. The life was different. Like it was completely
It's very
different. Whatever
different,
we
yeah.
yeah, and I personally, when I went to Canada, तो मेरे को तो ऐसा हो गया कि यार everything that I knew growing up all my life, 22, 23 years, यहाँ पे तो सब कुछ अलग है. Like people are driving on the other side and they are like
Yeah,
doing everything how we do, उससे बिल्कुल opposite.
very differently,
But
huh?
it was very overwhelming. बहुत I have learned so much from Canada. Like whenever somebody asks me, you can learn a lot from any country whatsoever. Even in your own country, if you're like staying away from your family, you get to learn a lot of things. So my
Adi,
journey,
I
if I
just want,
sum it,
sorry,
yeah,
no,
yeah.
no, please go ahead.
Like if I sum up my journey in Canada, it was great. I did like my 2 years of college. Then my second course was actually supply chain man, like core
Got it.
supply chain.
Mhm.
Then I got my job. I just pace up a little bit. Then I got my job. So they don't have anything like how we have like placement things in
Placement.
our country, like हमारे colleges में. And then I got my job in I got my first job in LG Electronics, like the LG that we know.
Okay, yeah, nice.
Yeah, and I was like a core logistics supply chain job, and it was in Toronto. So it was great times. I met a lot of people. My colleague was from Ukraine and Africa, so a lot of people, a lot of things to learn from them. Then after a few, I'd say months, I'd say almost a year and a half, I decided that I would not want to be in Canada anymore. Nothing against any country. I just wanted to come back, and it was
Yeah.
not my thing. So I decided to just move back, and then the story continues in India.
Adi, I just have two questions for you, and this is like for
Mm-hmm.
anybody who's like planning to study in Canada, go to Canada. एक जो सबसे ज़्यादा question रहता है, how we are so price sensitive. So I just want you to give a estimate कि if anybody is going to look for their masters in Canada, how much they
Mm-hmm.
can expect to sell out in Indian rupees, and then consequently, if they get a job in Canada, like if they
Mm-hmm.
go in for these core good niche fields like product management or supply chain, or based on your experience, like what is the average salary that people in INR can
Mm-hmm.
get? So if you can give like a rough idea for that.
So I was personally a bit price sensitive, not because my family. So I didn't wanted to take money from my parents. I wanted to take up a loan, but then Indian moms, being Indian moms, so my mom's like, no, we'll sponsor your education whatsoever. So see, there are two different things. So once you pay for your education, that like one thing is education, and then there is one more safe amount that you actually put in a
Okay.
Canadian
Yeah.
bank account. It's called GIC. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
basically, they take X amount from you and then they put it in a bank account which belongs to you only. So you
Correct.
go
Huh.
there, you open a bank account and everything, and they only give you a part of that chunk every month, so that even if you decide not to work as a part-time job, like get a part-time job,
You
you
have
still
enough
have
funds.
money. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
you have enough money, but you don't get a lot of money at once. So they keep you like give it to you in installments. You get a little bit of interest also on it. It's like I'd say uh, average, below average, but yeah, the idea is the government also plays in a way that आप वहाँ पे जाके उन पे dependent ना हो जाओ कि आपके पास पैसा नहीं है, then obviously they'll have to sponsor you. So that amount was $10,000 Canadian, 60 rupees, 60 62 it generally trades against Indian rupee. So कुछ 6 साढ़े 6 लाख के आसपास
That's
तब
what it's
था.
telling.
What
Okay.
I heard recently, they have just doubled it to $20,000.
Oh,
Yeah, what I heard recently, I'm not sure, I haven't checked the facts, but what I
no,
heard,
no problem.
and so yeah, whatever एक amount होता है जो आपसे वो लेते हैं, and they put it in your only bank account. Then there are education, like
Yeah.
there is education fees that is different. So that could be anywhere from 30,000 Canadian dollars to about like 50, 60,000. So anywhere around 15, 20 lakhs, and it can go up to 50 lakhs.
Got
But
it.
then you can obviously get an education loan. That's very easy to get if you are going to good colleges or
Yeah.
universities in Canada.
Mhm.
Like the banks, Indian banks have also, like even the
Yeah.
Indian. So I was not aware that banks don't like. This is a guy 25 years of old, and like 25 years old, and I was not aware कि education loan actually एक दूसरी entities देती हैं, banks नहीं देते. Like banks भी देते हैं, but like there are companies like Avance and all who actually deal in like education loan only. So they have tie-ups with all these colleges. Not really like tie-ups, but वो खुद उनको rate करते हैं कि okay, if Prachi is going to Toronto University, so she will end up getting a job, so she'll be able to pay our education. Okay, she is going to XYZ college, not a good repo. So वहाँ थोड़ी
Got
दिक्कत
it.
आती है. So it all depends कि आप कौन से college में जा रहे हो. Coming to your second question where you asked how much anybody could make. So देखो, it's simple. Any starting job you with no experience, because up India के experience को they don't
Yeah.
really
Mhm.
consider. Yeah,
Okay.
it works the other way around also. I'll come to that also later. But so if you're joining right after college in Canada, so as a fresher, they treat you as a fresher, and not in every case, but in most of the cases.
Most of the cases, yeah.
So yeah, and if you don't have certification, there are a lot of certifications. So like project management has certifications. जैसे मैं अब दे सकता हूँ. Now I'm eligible. Right after graduating, you cannot. You have to like have 2 years of experience after graduating. Then you can give that project management. It's called PMP, project management certification. So अगर आपके पास कोई certification नहीं है, तो you can look at anywhere from $45,000. That is आज से about 25-27 लाख रुपए से लेके INR, anywhere up to $70,000 depending upon so that's like 50-55 लाख तक. And
And if somebody has those certifications, like you said, like after 2 years, you'll get that certification. So
Mhm.
the average would
Yeah,
be
it changes. Yeah, obviously it changes because by that time you have some experience also in the same field, and then you're working like working in their environment, like in North American environment. तो उसका भी इफेक्ट आता है. तो yeah, like in 2 years I know people who have crossed $100,000, like $1 lakh के
oh,
आसपास, like
nice.
60 लाख, yeah. So there was this friend of mine. I'm very fond of him, and one of the nicest guy that I've met. Today is his birthday actually. So shout out to Karan. So he was making, like, he was doing very good for himself. So he was like core into like data analyst and
Okay,
all. So
okay.
he was making $200,000 or something. Sorry Karan, मैंने तेरी salary बता दी सबको. So yeah, so he was doing pretty well for himself just because उसका जो domain इंडिया में था उसने उसको ही carry
He
forward किया.
continued, correct. Got it.
Yeah. For me it was a switch, so it all depends कि आप switch कर रहे हो तो उससे फर्क आएगा. उसने कैरी फॉरवर्ड किया तो इट्स लाइक हाउ इट इज इन इंडिया, बट जो ग्रोथ है वहां पे थोड़ी क्विक है कंपेयर टू ऑब्वियसली इंडिया, बिकॉज पीपल आर लेस, मैन पावर की रिक्वायरमेंट ज्यादा है. तो इट्स जस्ट द गेम ऑफ दैट. Education wise, I would believe, and I may get a lot of bad feedback on this, but I'd say education wise India is far superior in like education perspective जो है, because मेरे आधे से ज्यादा प्रोफेसर जब मैं कनाडा गया था तो इस माइंडसेट से गया था कि यार मेरे तो गोरे क्लासमेट्स होंगे and I'll get to meet so many new people, which I did, but 50% of them were Indians only, and then
Oh,
50% was Canadian, Spanish, and England के थे
the
and
mix
whatnot.
of the rest.
The professors were Indians, like Indian subcontinent, India, Pakistan. हम इंडिया में जब रहते हैं तभी इंडिया पाकिस्तान होता है. बाहर जाके everybody is just, like we all gel pretty well together. So, uh, the education wise, India is far superior. But in India, we don't have choices, the kind of choices that we
Yeah.
have in countries like Canada, US, Australia, whatever. मेरा एक फ्रेंड था कनाडा में. He was doing masters in sports injury and something. So like,
Oh, wow.
like, yeah. So something like
That
that.
is so
Sports
amazing. हाँ, मतलब we've never heard of this.
या एक मेरे कॉलेज के सीनियर थे, एक मणिपाल से. ही हैज डन मास्टर्स इन स्पोर्ट्स मैनेजमेंट. सो यू नो हाउ फुटबॉल मैनेजर्स होते हैं जो टच
Correct,
लाइन पे
correct.
खड़े
Yeah,
होते
yeah,
हैं.
club managers
या
होता
या
है,
या
yeah.
या So he
Mhm.
was actually studying that, and there is this a friend of mine. He was in college with me in Canada. He was doing the same thing, and Toronto FC, जो Toronto के football club, he's actually a junior coach there right now. So
Oh, wow.
ये सब चीजें वहाँ पे बहुत, like, you can actually, there was this friend of mine. I'll just sum it up after this. She was actually
Mhm.
doing something in nail art, and that was a course, and she was doing it. So
Oh,
like
wow.
option wise we lack a little in India. मतलब बीटेक है या एमटेक, बीटेक, like कॉमर्स में है तो बहुत like एक स्ट्रीमलाइन चीजें हैं, तो वहां पे you get a lot of option, but the quality of education is obviously better in India. That too I can vouch for.
Got it. Thank you so much, Adi. मतलब this was really very insightful for anybody जिससे कनाडा में जाना हो. A lot of people are still
Mm-hmm.
thinking, are still in that decision-making mode कि whether we should go to that place or not. So I think that is very helpful. And thank you for being with us today. So
Uh-huh.
guys, we'll wrap the session today. If anybody who's watching has any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Also, guys, अब तक तो जान ही गए होगे, but still, if you don't remember, this is CA Prachi Upadhyay, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow me. Thank you so much.